I hold in my hand, and the Minister and the Premier have a copy of this, a commitment on behalf of the region and the province of British Columbia to working together with our other partners, and you are a significant part of that. The federal government is a part of that. And this is only the roadmap. The heavy lifting comes as we work together. But I need to tell you that I believe that we have the opportunity to move forward in a very positive way. And now I would like to ask a gentleman who I respect immensely, the partner that we have represented by the Honorable Gordon Campbell. Premier, would you come and address the audience? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Peter, and thank you all for coming and joining us today. This is an important day for, I think, for all of us in the region and all of us in the province. I do want to take a moment to recognize the work that Mayor Fassbender has undertaken to bring this day together for this memorandum of understanding. And I also want to thank the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, Shirley Bond, and all of her staff, all the TransLink staff, and the Mayor's Council for saying, let's get this right, let's get smart, and let's do what we need to do for the region and for the province. So thank you to all of them for the work. And I'm sure Ian Black and Shirley Bond will say to you that it is the partnerships that we build, it is the mutual commitment to our goals and our objectives that allow us to realize our dreams. So let me just remind you of that. I want you all to think back. Let's just think back. 208 days ago, what were you doing? Does anyone remember 208 days ago? I can tell you what you were doing. You were celebrating. You were celebrating Sidney Crosby's goal at the end of the best Winter Olympics in the history of the Olympic Games. And you know, it's important to think back, because when we launched the Olympic endeavor, there were a lot of people that said we shouldn't do it. There were a lot of people that said we wouldn't be able to accomplish the goals we set. This is what we did. It was a partnership. It was a partnership between the federal government and the provincial government and local governments. Thousands and thousands of volunteers. The private sector came together and they said, let's do something special. And you know, the interesting thing was we exceeded virtually all of our expectations. We said we wanted these to be Canada's Olympics. And from coast to coast to coast, thousands of people were singing "O Canada" 208 days ago. And you know, just last week we announced the winner of the Canada Winter Games, which will be Prince George in 2015. And as we started that ceremony, we were standing there was a bunch of school kids with us, there were people from Kamloops, from Kelowna, for Prince George, and we sang "O Canada." And we sang it with a different sense of passion, a different sense of what our country is and what our country can be. And I think that was a gift of the Olympic Games. I had a friend who was going to the closing ceremony with his 5-year-old daughter. Now you'll recall the closing ceremony was just a little bit after the game. And they were driving down because they wanted to be there in plenty of time for the closing ceremony. And she looked up at him and she said, "Daddy, those people out there are crazy." They parked blocks away from where the stadium was, where they were going for the closing. And they went in literally every intersection they stopped at. She would start singing "O Canada." And you know, there wasn't people looking at her and wondering what to do. You know what? They all sang "O Canada." Every intersection on the way down. Now, I don't think she's going to remember Sydney's goal. I don't think she'll remember the fact that Canada won more gold medals at this Winter Olympics than has ever been won by a host country before. I don't think she'll remember all of the athletes. I know this. She's going to remember the time that everyone joined her in singing "O Canada." We set a goal. We exceeded expectations. I went to Turin, which was the Winter Olympics before us, and you got to Turin and you sort of enjoyed the Olympics, but you know what struck me in Turin, it was almost like they didn't know the Olympics were there. I came back and I said, you know, I don't care if people have tickets to a game or to an event. I want them to know this is their Olympics. It's their celebration. How many of you had a good time during the Olympics while they were here in Vancouver? There was a time when people said to me, I've never had so much fun. I don't remember ever feeling this way. We set our goals, we exceeded expectations. We also set goals with regard to things like corporate sponsorships. Highest level of corporate sponsorship in the history of not the Winter Games, of the Olympic Games. For British Columbia, Canada, Whistler's Euro Olympic Games. We set goals for television viewership. 3.5 billion people, more people saw our Olympic Games in 2010 than had ever seen an Olympic Games ever in the world. Exceeded our expectations. Right at the end of the Games, I went to visit with Dick Ebersol, who is the genius for NBC, who continually puts on exceptional games. I don't know how many of you saw the NBC part, but they did a great job. And he said to me, you know, Premier, I've been to lots of games. And I noticed two things. I've never felt safer at a games. Pretty nice thing to say. And he said, you know what? I never saw a weapon the entire time. It's hard to find a city or a province or a country in the world that can offer that. He said, these are the best games we've ever been at. You know what? That was you. That was the people of British Columbia. That was all of us coming together in partnership and saying, let's show the country, let's show the world what we have to offer. Boy, was that ever a successful event. You're talking gold medals, you all won a gold medal in 2010. Did you know one of the greatest gold medal attractions of 2010? The Canada Line. That was one of the greatest promotions of public transit we've had, certainly in my lifetime here in the Lower Mainland. And I've had an opportunity to serve first as a councillor, and then as a mayor, and then as a leader of an opposition, and then as a premier. And you know what? It was spectacular. A young man came to me, he has 2 kids, lives in my riding. He came to me and he said, you know, I just realized how important transit can be. I can save myself about $7,000 a year because of Canada's line there. Is Mayor Robertson still here? He said, if that stupid Mayor Robertson, no, I'm joking. He said, you know, if I can find a home close to a transit stop, I am actually going to go and buy a place close to where transit is. And I won't need to buy a second car for my family. And I'm going to save a lot. And it's going to make a difference to my quality of life. And I love that Canada Line. Now, you know, I think when you're successful, it's important to learn the lesson of success. Here's the lesson. A partnership. Federal government, largest public-private partnership in the history of the country. The provincial government, the private sector, TransLink, the airport authority. All of them came together in partnership. And you know what we've done? Once again, we've exceeded expectations. We expected ridership to be where it is today in about 2013-14. That is success, and that is important because it's improving the quality of life in the province. And this is another really interesting thing for Shirley Bond, who is an MLA for Prince George, or for me, who's trying to representing the whole province. People come from Kamloops. They say, I love that Canada Line. They come from Prince George. They say, I love that Canada Line. They understand why that Canada Line was so important too. And here's another thing. It was brought in on budget, and it was brought in early. That's performance, and that's the kind of gold medal performance we have to have in transit across this region. So today we signed a Livable Cities Memorandum of Understanding with the Mayor's Council. Here's what it really means. It's time for us to take down the barriers that separate us and to say to ourselves, how do we deliver the transit services that people demand? Now, I've been to the Tri-Cities Chamber of Commerce on occasion, and one of the things the Tri-Cities Chambers of Commerce have said to me pretty consistently is, when are you going to build that Evergreen line? Have you ever heard that before in the Tri-Cities? Now, just to be clear, I want to check this. Do you still